So my name is David, and I'm working for Microsoft Corp, but as Andy, I'm based in France, so I'm not working in the US. So I guess I've got the best job. I'm living in France and working for the US. You can follow me on Twitter, and I've got a blog to follow. So together, we're going to check. I don't know if you know this TV show, Mythbusters. We're going to try to check if some of the myths are true or not. I know most of you are native developers or C#, C++ developers. A couple of you are JavaScript developers. So I was, and I'm still a C# developer, which is probably still my favorite language. But I really like also playing with JavaScript and TypeScript. So we're going to see if all these myths are true. First of all, let's try to understand how hosted web apps are working. So what you're going to have is your website running on a web server, and you've got your device, and you have a container app that's going to run the browser engine. So this browser, in our case, is Edge when you're running on top of Windows 10. So you're going to use the JavaScript engine of Edge, as well as the CSS rendering engine and all the stuff. Your website will be on whatever you like, and is going to be executed directly live on the device. So the beauty of that, you can publish your application in the store, and you will be able to update the website, and it will be updated live on the device. So why should you use hosted web app? So first of all, if you are a web developer, or if you've got people working on web stuff in your company, maybe you know that they are really like using their own editor. So it could be Visual Studio Code, it could be Notepad++, Sublime Text, Emacs, whatever. You know that when we are web developers, we don't really care. We are going to choose our favorite editors. Then you're going to put that on your favorite repos. It could be GitHub most of the time, but it could be also Visual Studio Online or whatever. Finally, you're going to deploy that on your own hosting solution. So it could be Azure, and we will be happy, but it could be also Amazon, Heroku, or whatever. And finally, you'll be able to reach all these millions of Windows 10 users currently on the market. Once you're being executed inside an hosted web app, you can call some native universal API from JavaScript, and the code will be hosted on your website. We're going to see that together at the end, how to manage to do this kind of stuff. Finally, you'll be able to publish all that on the Windows Store and become famous, having a lot of money, let's hope so, and putting also some analytics to try to see which kind of a user currently using your apps. So first myth, most of the time when I'm talking with C# developers, C++ developers, you say, yeah, JavaScript, it's all dynamic, it really sucks, nobody are able to write some code in this stupid stuff, so I really tend to like C#. And this the thing that web app stinks. So let's try to see that. First of all, we've got a lot of cool web apps currently in our stores. So a couple of them are there. So famous application using these kind of technologies. And we also have some hybrid scenarios. So for instance, in the case of Shazam, they've got a lot of developers in their company that are really skilled on HTML and CSS. So the idea was to take some of the code from their website to build the UI of the application for the Windows stores. But still, they needed a bit more power to, multi-threading stuff and decoding stuff to analyze the audio. So they built a C++ component, and it's going to be used by the JavaScript application being hosted. So you can also imagine mixing some kind of technologies, and you'll see that the comments and the rating out of the application is still really, really great. So on my side, I'm working on WebGL framework named Babylon.js. So because, I don't know if you can see the screen yet, because a friend of mine with who I've started writing this framework is a huge fan of the TV shows Babylon 5. So this is the reason. On my side, I rather like Star Wars, but when you start to use Star Wars, you've got some trouble with the license. So we decided to use other names. So what we're going to see is a live experience in the browser, running 60 frames per second. And we've been writing this experience with all the teams. So we are a couple of people working on Babylon.js today. Most of them are French, and we've got also one there in the room today, so if you've got questions. And what you can see that I'm currently able to move inside this 3D scene using keyboard and mouse. I can also use my finger. It's supporting touch. And also I can use this gamepad because we've got the gamepad API being supported inside the browser. So which means that this experience with 3D sound using WebAudio, you've got a lot of feature inside the browser. So what if I'd like now to transform that into an application ready for the store? So what I need to do is to copy-paste that, going to Visual Studio, and I'm going to pop up a new instance of Visual Studio. Don't be afraid. So I'm going to create a new project, an hosted web app project, pressing OK. And it's fairly easy to transform. Of course, you need a bit of job to have the proper asset also. So I need also to say that if this application needs to access to the UWP APIs, I need to provide authorization there. I can save, Control F5. And of course, I will have the same kind of experience. So currently it's loading the file. In the case of this experience, we've used also IndexedDB, which is a local database you've got based on the web standard. So I'm currently downloading all the assets from the website, like the textures and the geometries and sounds locally, that in case I don't have anymore the network, the application will still be able to run perfectly fine. So currently downloading everything locally. And finally, as this experience has been made to be responsive with a lot of cool CSS stuff, of course you will have exactly the same kind of things. So you'll be able to run that on a Windows 10 PC and on the Windows Phone also. So once you're doing that, maybe most of the people that will play with this experience won't tell you that, oh my God, this is JavaScript, it's awful. No, they don't really care. Just a beautiful experience. I hope so, you like it. And they don't care about the fact it's C#, C++, or JavaScript. So we are supposed to play to a game together, so it was a huge fail in other cities. If you're convinced, you're supposed to say busted, okay? So let's try together. If nobody said busted, you're not convinced. So it's busted. Sorry, I'm the only one to say that, but I'm used to that, no problem. So next slide. Yes. So also another problem we also hear from you is web apps don't follow web standards. So let's try to see that, which is completely not true, because what we are currently doing at Microsoft is working with the W3C, because we are part of the W3C, obviously, to build a new kind of manifest, which is a JSON file, and the idea is to let you defining a couple of assets inside that to tell that, for instance, the launching screen will use this kind of image. And also, if you like to specify it should be only executed in landscape or whatever, you can specify a couple of property on your website. The idea is to let tools then to analyze your websites and to decide which kinds of assets we need to download to make it a native app. Then if you need to target specific platforms, what you can do is using feature detection. So we used to do that using web development. So the first one, the blue part, is currently trying to target the Windows 10 platform. So what we're trying to do is dynamically check if Windows is being defined, is not undefined. If it's the case, I will be able to call some of the methods being available on the platform, like taking a picture using the camera. And the green part, if I like now to target iOS or Android devices, I'm going to use a Cordova namespace to check if it's currently enabled. If it's the case, I will then pop up some specific code for Android or iOS. So let's have a look to a demo. So I've got, again, an application that is a bit more serious, which is this one. So it is an application that's supposed to mimic a website for a bank. And as it is responsive, it will be a perfect candidate to be transformed into an application that will be hosted on the Windows 10 devices from PC to phones or on other platforms. So let me show you how to transform this application into a native version. So again, I need to copy-paste the path here. And I'm going to use this time a tool named Manifold.js, which is also an open source framework. And the idea is to help you building from your website all the different versions of all phones available on the market. So it's fairly easy for that. You need to install it using npm. Then you need to type manifold.js, the path to your website. I'm going to add some debug information. And you will see when I'm going to press enter, you will see that we are downloading the manifest from the website. You can see it. It was quick, but you've managed to see the JSON part. And now what we're going to do is to create all versions of this application for you. The idea is to gain some time. And it should finally build all versions of the platforms. Here it is. And now you've got everything ready to be deployed on Android devices, on iOS, Firefox OS, on Windows 10, just by using this tool. So it's pretty cool. And let's try to have a look to the Windows 10 version. So I'm going to open the Universal project being created automatically by this tool. And compared to the first thing I've been doing using the hosted web app, you remember, I didn't have a really nice icon at the beginning. And thanks to this tool, now if I'm doing the same thing, you see that now I've got a nice starting screen. At least I don't have the default one. And maybe you will be able to notice also that if I'm comparing this site with that, I've got more icon over there. It is because now I know that my website is currently executed inside an hosted web app. I've got this window.windows thing that returns true. So it means that I can have access to more APIs. So if I'm clicking on the button now, I can access to my camera over there. Don't know where it is, but it should be over there. To take a picture. OK. And the idea is to sign a check or do whatever you like inside the application with your JavaScript code. So you see, fairly easy to transform again an application using your website and to extend it on the native platform using feature detection. So I know I am the only guy between you and the food, but you need to say busted. And we will have a game also after that, just after lunch, a game where you will be able to win some nice presents, and I will be part of the jury. So if you don't say busted, I will remember your face and names. Okay? So let's do it together. I think this meat is busted. Thank you. Some of you want to win some prize. Okay, so next myth. Web apps can't run offline. Well, to be honest, it's a more difficult one. And it's going to be better in the near future. So today, what you can use using web standard technologies are application cache or IndexedDB, what we're currently using in the Babylon.js frameworks, so to enable you to grab some file locally. But for the pure offline part, to detect if you're currently running online or offline, well, to be honest, the current standard specifications are not that great. So Google has been working on a very nice one named the service workers. So we're currently implementing them inside Microsoft Edge, so as well as the web notification. What you could do also is to do some hybrid content. So you're not forced to load everything live from your website. You can also embed part of the resources directly in the application, taking some of your HTML, CSS file, or any resources to your light. And we've got also default offline page using hosted web app. We're going to see that together. So let's try to do another demo that could fail because the idea is to remove access to the network, which is not a good idea when you're doing live demos, but let's try to do that. So, going to take, again, the application I've shown you during the keynote. I'm going to execute it. So it still the same application, so can play some music and scratch. Okay, now what if I'm losing connectivities and I'm pressing the add more button and that I need to download more stuff from my website? So for that, I need to unplug, and I don't like doing that, but the Ethernet cable. So you see now it said that you will get into trouble now. And let's try to press the Add More button. What we've been doing, if we are losing connectivities, by default, the hosted web app is providing you a default page. Most of the time is, please reconnect to have the full experience. But what you could do is just provide an offline experience. Like, in the meantime, you're not forced just to say to the people, well, you've got to wait now. You can provide something else. So we decided with my colleague Jeff to build this experience, 8-bit version of Hotbit. You see, really stupid, using 8-bit sound, 8-bit graphics. And normally, but I took a lot of time to build this experience, actually. And if I'm connecting back the cable, I should now have internet access back, and then the application knows you can use the full experience because it's detecting that you've got internet back. So to give you an idea on how to do that, you can combine that with current web standards like IndexedDB, because you're not forced to provide an offline version only. You can maybe download some of your data from your web server to still be used on the client side. And we're just being modified this page over there to do that. And I've blogged about this beautiful application you probably will like to download. So this is the more complex part because we're going to do a live demo together, which is really fun, but it depends on the quality of the network. So web apps are difficult to debug. Well, when you're running your website inside a hosted web app on Windows 10, you still have the F12 key. So I guess if you're a web developer, you're all used to F12 in Chrome, Firefox, or Edge, or whatever is your favorite browser. So you still have F12, meaning that if you're pressing F5 in Visual Studio on your hosted web app, once it's run, you just have to press F12, and you will have the DOM Explorer and console and everything you're used to. But what if you're running on a multiple set of devices? So on iPhone, Android, it's getting complex. So that's why we decided also, most of the people from the Babylon.js team decided to write a new framework named Vorlon.js, which is also an open source framework on GitHub. And the idea is to use Node.js and Socket.io for most of the logic to remote connect to devices and to remote debug them. So it could be your fridge, because now some of the fridge got Node.js, so we'll be able to remote debug your fridge. And it could be whatever running JavaScript, almost anything today, including IoT devices. So we've got a different set of plugins. It's plugin-based, meaning that you can write your own set of plugins. Most of the people from the community has been written the plugin for us, like ng inspector to inspect some Angular JS application. So let's try to do that. First, I'm going to do it locally. Okay, clean a little bit the desktop. Let's pop up my beautiful bank account website. And I'm going to connect to the dashboard. So the idea is you've got the dashboard to remote debug anything. And I'm also going to launch the bank application, which was there. So you can see that I can see now 2 clients being connected to my dashboard. So to enable that, you just have to reference a single line of JavaScript at the very beginning of your website to let us introspect everything you will be doing on your website, and we will remotely send a lot of commands through Socket.io to this dashboard. So let's imagine that I don't know which kernel devices is failing. So let's imagine I've got some trouble inside the hosted web app. What I can do is to press the identify client. So I'm going to snap it there. And I've got a number. So if I know that this is currently the device that's got a problem, I just need to click on the Windows 1 part. And now you can see I can roll over the DOM to inspect it, to check that what's currently being supported on the platforms. I've got a couple of plugins enabled there. I can also run some best practices analysis on my website to check if I've got some problem on the accessibility part of my website, around performances, or around anything linked to mobile web. So it's working fine. Now we're going to do something more difficult. And I need your help. So I'm going to write, and I'm going to make it bigger. So please connect using your phone, whatever your phone is. Do that. If you've got connectivities, we've got the Mac connecting, Windows phones, thank you so much. Android, you're still welcome. iOS devices, okay. A lot of you are going to connect. So I've never been able to check what is the current limit we've got on the number of connections, so maybe you will break it. And together we unit testing our code. So we've got enough devices. We've got something like, I don't know, more than 60 devices. So let's try them. For instance, someone in the audience said that, well, this website is not working or this application is not working on my phone, and I need to identify you. So don't worry, it doesn't hurt. So I'm going to click on Identify a Client, and you should have a number. Yes? Yeah. So let's imagine that I'm going to debug iOS 8. Who's number 8? Me, you. Welcome. We don't know each other, okay? Okay. It's not a trick or whatever. So I'm going to remote debug you, okay? Okay. So normally, if I'm doing that, you should see some yellow. Yes, you can, and your colleagues on the table can prove it also. I can check what your platform is currently supporting. So let's check for Gamepad, for instance. And you don't have it. Okay. And it broke. No. Okay. You don't have it because you've got an iPhone, which makes sense. You can connect a Gamepad on it, at least today. And what I can do also is to execute some JavaScript code directly. So now imagine that you've been able to find a problem which could be around the layout, or it could be on the JavaScript side. Maybe you like to execute some code directly on the device rather than redeploying everything. So what I'm going to do is really a simple thing. I'm going to say, bonjour. And it should provide a pop-up for there? Yeah. Yes, it worked. And we don't know each other, okay? So the idea is really to, in a very simple way, just reference a line of code in the website, and you will enable this experience, which is, I can run it from Edge, but you can run it from any kind of browser currently running JavaScript, and it will work. So it's definitely busted, thanks to Vorlon.js. So finally, thank you. We've got the final one. Web apps have limited functionalities compared to native application. So first of all, we're currently starting to implement Web Worker in Microsoft Edge. So it means that you will have it inside the hosted web app. So we're currently implementing Fetch APIs, which is really cool because it's based on Promise, so it's great. We've got web notification also. If you're currently using, for instance, Facebook with Chrome, maybe you notice that now you've got some notification. It's using web standards, so it's a new stuff we're currently implementing in Microsoft Edge, and will be integrated directly, you see, on the notification center of Windows 10. So again, a new cool feature available using standard way of the W3C. And finally, if you want to go further than that, what you can do is to call either C# or C++ code directly from JavaScript by building a component in C++ or C#, and you will be able to access it from JavaScript. So it means that all the platform will be available for you from JavaScript. But if you want also to go even further than that, you could do also some pure C++ code being called by JavaScript, like in the case of Chasm. So I'm going to first show you how to call the UWP APIs. So let's go back to machine number 3. Cleaning stuff. I've got this website, and I'm going to have a view on the source code. And as far as I remember, it's at the end. Yes. So you see that I'm doing Windows.Windows on this website, and if I'm running on Windows 10, I'm going to use a proximity device to be able to use NFC. So probably you're going to a lot of different meetups when you're developers. Well, I'm doing a lot of meetups, and you know you're forced to be scanned with your badge, and sometimes it's really painful. So the idea was to build a website being able to scan NFCs. And so if I'm running this website inside hosted web app, and I'm projecting my screen. So, yes. You see that this is the same website, but being executed on my phone. I can scan my badge, and you see that I'm able to access to the NFC part of this card, thanks to the UWP APIs, because I've been able to extend the features because I'm running that on a Windows 10 container. So very simple to do. Just to bring you some idea, if you think that you're currently limited by the JavaScript and web standard stuff, you can go further than that using this kind of approach. And let's do the final demo, which is really cool, but using my Ben. Let's check that everything is working fine, yes. So if I want to go even further than that, you remember the Sponza demo at the beginning. I was able to move the camera using my gamepad, touch, mouse, keyboard, so it was really cool. You know, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so I really like Jedi powers. So the idea was to try to use my Ben, using the Ben SDK, using C# to build a component to access to my Ben and the accelerometer part of my Ben, and to remote control the application using that. So first of all, I've been written this piece of C# code over there. The idea is to have access to the accelerometers and store that somewhere. And I will have access to that in JavaScript, just here. So let me zoom a little bit more. You see that I'm doing the same kind of feature detection stuff I've been doing so far. So the idea is to check for the availability of this C# component. If it's defined, then I will be able to call the constructor of this C# component. And later on, inside the code, I will just check that my Ben is properly connected. And if it's the case, I will try to have access to the accelerometer data to update the position of my camera. So this is the theory now. Let's check that in action. And I know that the god of demos wasn't really great today, so no, I'm going to press F5 to check if everything goes fine. So I'm not touching my PC anymore. You will have the beautiful music I've been composing. Let's switch back to... And now I can use Jedi trick by slightly moving my arm, going left and right. I can use the power of the Force. You see? So it's working fine. I'll give you an idea what you could do using hosted web apps. So I think it's, again, busted. We can do a lot of cool things using hosted web apps. So if you'd like to go further than that, there is a specific address you should navigate to over there. We're still available, and here and I, during the break, to discuss about that if you would like to check how we're doing that. And there is a friend of mine also working on Babylon.js in the room, so if you'd like to talk about WebGL, I'm more than happy to discuss about that. And now it's time for lunch. Thank you.